Funny. All right, I'm going to introduce this. Thank you, everyone. Hello out there. Welcome to another installment of our AFA Canada Retail Next webinar series. This one is called Proactive Planning for 2022. On behalf of the AFA Canada President Stuart Sugar and our fabulous board of directors, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules, and thank you to our panelists for your time commitments as well. We very much appreciate it. Before we introduce the panel, just a couple of notes about what's happening at AFA Canada. In case you don't know, registration for our February 2022 show is open. It's called AFA Expo Momentum Market. We're building on our minimalist market last August. It's now open for exhibitors and retailers, so you can visit afacanada.com to register. As well, just a little note, we are pleased to now be partnering with CFIB, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Our members will be able to take advantage of their membership as well. With 95,000 members across the country, CFIB is Canada's largest advocacy organization concerned about the survival and growth of independent businesses. To learn more about CFIB, you can reach out to me at michelle@afacanada.com, or you can feel free to join into our November 30th intro session with them. And now I'd like to introduce our supplier panel roundtable lead, the fabulous Frank D'Alessio, Director of Sales for Cougar Shoes Canada. And also I work with him very closely. He is Chair of 210 Foundation of Canada as well. Frank is going to introduce the rest of the panel. If you have any questions during the session, use the chat box or the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. And without further ado, I'm going to leave it to you guys. So have fun. Thank you again. Really appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm really privileged again to be part of the roundtable. I just want to remind everybody, though, shameless plug here, as chair of the 210 Canada Association. This month we are doing, we have our shoe drive. So if you've got any extra shoes that you want to donate to charities, please contact Michelle and we'd love to give them away to a charity. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panel. A couple of these guys I just met for the first time, some great speakers. We were just off air, if you will, speaking about a few things, and very intelligent people, all three of them. First, I'd like to start, Thomas, if you can introduce yourself. Thomas is not only on this, but he's a AFA board member. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Frank. Hello, everybody, and thank you for having me. It's very exciting to be here. So I'm greeting you from Vancouver. I'm not a native to Canada, as you can hear. I was born in Switzerland, but came here quite a while ago. Great country, great people, and started my own business in 1995. I've also moved a bit around here, lived in here, Vancouver, the Okanagan, then tried out Toronto. That was okay, but not forever. Moved back to Switzerland and then back to Vancouver. Well, I always had my own business, and now we have settled here 11 years ago. It's a small business with about 9 people in the office in Vancouver, and then about 45 people altogether across the country. We do small wares. We don't do shoes. We do wallets and glasses and jewelry, as you know, when you see what I do at the trade show. And so mostly lifestyle and design items. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, everybody. And over to maybe James.
Hey, it's really funny how everybody lives in Toronto for 4 or 5 years and then goes back. So that's a great segue to James. Thanks. Go ahead, James.
Yes, greetings, everybody. Thanks for having me on board. My name is James Geddes. I own a manufacturer's agency called Authentic Agencies. I've been in business since 1986, just over 35 years. We've worked with brands over the years such as Birkenstock, Manitoba Mucklucks, Bionic, and Woolen Mills. And it's a great business. Happy to be here, and good luck with the chat.
Thanks, James. And How long were you in Toronto? Did you last 5 years like Thomas did, or did you get
I
outside?
was years in Toronto in the beaches, and enjoyed my time there very much. Made some great contacts, and yeah, I enjoyed Toronto very much. I now live in Calgary, Alberta, but spent most of my career in my life on the coast in Coquitlam, BC, and White Rock, BC.
Nice, thank you. Tim, what do you got?
Well, I live in Toronto. I love Toronto, and I will retire in Toronto.
We're not moving.
Glad to hear everyone's perspective on that. I guess on paper, I'm president of Blundstone Canada / Tin Shack. We obviously represent Blundstone, but also Glareps, and in the past have done El Naturalista and 10 Points, among other brands. I started about 21 years ago on the retail side with Australian Boot Company, which are also our stores, but have just progressed through the years to kind of manage Blundstone and Glareps now. So that's where I am.
Nice.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So a couple of Ontario boys and a couple out west. Here we go. So we thought it was really great and really important, not just to have everybody from the shoe business and everybody from the same type of company. So I really want to hear a lot of the things that Thomas has. It's kind of outside of our footwear business. So it's just great to have another perspective. So I'm just going to start off with the first question, and maybe we'll start with James with this one. Like, what type of lead times are you looking at versus 2020? Maybe even we can go back as far as 2019. What are your lead times like?
Yeah, within the industry and my brands and other brands, other colleagues, and back 8-9 years ago, lead times were as quick 4 to 6 months. Now, some of my brands, you basically have to have your orders in the month of May for the following spring. So lead times have advanced now to 7, 8, 9, 10 months. Some of my vendors and brands are having to buy blindly a lot more before to get in all our orders around the shows, that type of thing. But now they're having to buy their production 7, 8, 9 months in advance, or risk not getting product in time. And definitely I've seen a lot of that in the last week.
Now, is there an opportunity, that's for booking, is there an opportunity for, like, do you buy stock, or are you a stock house? Do you have inventory?
Yeah, most of my brands during COVID were pretty conservative with their stock programs, their booking orders. What I am seeing moving into 2022 as we recover from this situation is my brands are definitely building up their stock programs a lot more than they have in the last 2 years. They're definitely seeing that.
Great. Tim, you want to tackle that one too? Like, I think it's like, what are your lead times compared to like 2020s? You know, we can talk about 2020, but really 2019, I think, is the better measure to what's going on today. Yeah,
on the production side, it really hasn't been too bad for us. We've probably added 4 weeks. It's really once that gets produced, and then once you hit the logistical side of things, getting on a boat, sitting at ports, getting on rail, that time has really kind of ballooned a lot more than our production. So instead of, from bookings, we would probably look at 6 months, it's now probably closer to 8 months. But we do keep a core inventory. Our product range doesn't change very much, so we're really lucky to be able to build that into our forecasting, and for the most part maintain a pretty strong inventory position throughout the year. And I'm not expecting that will change too much, just because we forecast so far in advance.
Right. Now, great point about, when we talk about lead times, it's, what's a big factor in there. And we were talking about this earlier. What's a big factor there is, yeah, some of us have our own factories. Some of us have great relationships with our factories. But then after the shoes are made, the big challenge this year was, it used to be, okay, you send your orders to the factory, it takes them 120 days, whatever the time is for every different company. Then you get on a boat, then you ship them, and 5 weeks later after production, they're on a rail to Toronto or wherever. That's obviously not what's happening anymore. And it's very, very important. There's besides the factory delays of, whether it's COVID or materials, Then there's the, now you make the shoe, you wait 1 or 3 or a month for the container, then you wait another 2 or 3 weeks for them to pick up the container. And then, oh, by the way, when it gets to the port, there's 52 ships instead of 50 ships. Very, very important for, and it's funny because a lot of us are in the business and we know all this, but I know at the last Toronto Shoe Show, there was a lot of particularly independents that weren't aware of all this. So how are, Thomas, how are you, are there any countries that you're dealing with that are better than others for your products, and where are your products made?
Yeah, we are mainly dealing with Europe and the US. So we're looking for products made in Europe. So we have quite a few that are 100% made in Europe. So every part that goes into the product is also made in Europe. As an example, we have a wallet, and that's out of Holland. And each part that goes into the wallet is sourced within 50 kilometers of head office. So within half an hour, they can go and look at the situation, meet with the people who make whatever part they're making. And
Wow.
so they take a truck and they bring the parts to the assembly. And so we're a lot faster that way. And that's where we want to go with our company as well, back to the source, and to eliminate the weights, and also have products made 100% in Europe. So we don't see those delays. What we see is back orders, because sometimes there is also a part missing. Even that's more based on labor shortage. They don't have people putting it together. And all of a sudden, it's like in Canada, I would hire 5 people tomorrow. I get resumes from Lima ready to relocate. Well, it's not going to happen for next week, right? So those are more my issues, and that's their issues, is labor shortage rather than parts.
So the labor shortage, obviously, because of the COVID crisis.
Yeah.
Now, you have not experienced any part delays, or, I mean, the labor shortage goes throughout, I guess, but have you experienced any delays in raw materials? And have you always been in Europe?
We have mostly been in Europe, yes. We started the business basically with a Swiss product, and we thought, well, that's great. Fun and good and easy. So that was always our strategy. We have deviated a little bit, and the results were not very good. And so we're trying really hard to keep to our strategy and stick to European made. We have some really nice American made products. Great. And of course, that's also much closer to where we are here. And that works out as well as European made products. But there is some material shortage also in Europe. That's true, but not as to the same degree as what I just hear today, and what I also hear from my other friends and colleagues in the industry.
Tim, how about you guys? Have you, like, it seems like your supply chain has been pretty good. Is there any changes that you anticipate going forward?
I don't. We had one little blip there with some thread for one of our SKUs, but that was very short-lived. And as I mentioned earlier, we forecast so far out, meaning 2-3 years out. So we kind of have our supply chain covered for quite a period of time. And I had mentioned when we were speaking earlier just about the partnerships that we've maintained through the pandemic. Obviously, a lot of people had to make adjustments through the pandemic with factory closures and whatnot, and had to switch, maybe going to different factories. We were very committed to the partners that we had, and will remain so. And also just based on, our manufacturer needs and production needs, you can't just move from one supplier to another. You have very specific requirements to meet with the suppliers that you use. So some people might be able to make that shift, but for us, we don't have that luxury.
That's really interesting, because what you guys have been doing, or like 2-3 years lead time, is wow. That's so now, how many, like, what's the percentage of your products changing, let's say in a season? Because that, I think,
Oh, it's really, I mean, we have probably about 30 core product that we've had for, I want to say 10 plus years. This year we'll introduce about 40 new SKUs, but probably only 25 will make it, right? And maybe 5 of those will carry over to the next season. So we're very fortunate to have a very tight product range, as opposed to someone like yourselves where you're kind of always at the mercy of, okay, what's next? What's new?
Yes.
New materials, new lasts, new outsoles. That's a tough business.
Yeah,
That's a really tough business.
It's changing, right? The
Yeah.
people with the core business, yeah, it's very nothing's easy, but it's easier to predict out when you've sold X shoe, you've sold 50,000 pairs. Well, I'm gonna probably be around that number. One of my colleagues, I won't mention the company because it's more of a private conversation, but one of my colleagues had a September 15th deadline for next October 2022, but hasn't delivered a shoe yet. So it's, that's what they're dealing with, but they're able to work around that because of their core. Everything else around it will have to come a little later. So James, how are you adjusting with deadlines and lead times?
As a sales agency, it's really changing the whole industry. Like, again, 9-10 years ago, we had our set trade show listing. We would start work in later January. We launched at the WCS, or the World Shoe Show in Vegas, the first week of February. We have a couple months to get our orders in, and everything was peachy. Especially the last 2 years of COVID, it's turned into chaos. And myself and my vendors, I'm urging to get samples earlier. I'm urging my customers to get their orders in much earlier. Like, I'm working in December before we wouldn't again start until the end of January. So it's really changed. You just have to keep adapting. I think the education to the retail buyers is going to urgently change in the next 2-3 months for the next buying cycle. And I'm really seeing that.
Yeah, I think it's really important, especially what Tim, the length of lead time, but someone like at Cougar, we do have, in particular Cougar, we have some core products for sure, but we're a fashion brand. So we have to be able to change and move a lot more. So the difference with us is we would normally start our presentations late November, early December. We've obviously, like everybody else, had to react, and we've started in the middle of October doing our fall 2022 presentations. Now, at first, when we had these meetings back in May saying this is what our lead times have to be, I was, it was very, you're sitting there going, I'm going to ask my customers for their orders before they receive all their product, but it's not, it's actually a very normal practice right now. We even have a whole bunch of our independents calling us and saying, hey, we're ready to work. When are you guys ready to work? And the main factor is, and it is what it is, I guess, is the most overused, but if they want their product, they're going to have to place their orders earlier. That's the bottom line. So are you, Thomas, back to you. You kind of alluded to this, but do you have any material scarcity in your between your two products?
Yeah, we have about like 6 different products. So, and there is some, yes, but it's doable. It's doable, but there is some, yes, some material that's missing, and then it takes longer. What I also see is that there is less new introductions. People our manufacturers, they just stick to the core more. They're doing less. We had usually big fall holiday introductions. Some of those were either canceled or really reduced. Instead of 25, in one instance down to 2. And that's what they can deliver maybe. And so that eliminates a little bit of the pressure then having to produce everything and be able to deliver everything. So there is more, although we are also quite fashion oriented, nevertheless, it's the core that we also promote, of course. And this season there'll be less novelty. And also next spring, I foresee to be less new introductions in our area.
Now, do you find that there's less novelty because of what we're doing today here? I know a lot of the customers are, you show them the I'll say the black Blundstone that they bought for a couple of years. They're like, yep, I need that. I need it. Do you guys find it difficult to introduce new products with the virtual presentations? Tim?
No, I find it's actually probably a little bit easier for us, to be honest. I think we can get through the product quicker, and with our retail base, a lot of them know what they need or want or what suits their business, and we don't operate our business in that we push certain ranges or products. We certainly encourage where we think it could be successful, but ultimately, that decision lies with the customer. And if it's something they don't need or want, then they don't need or want it. And it's.
Yeah, I'm finding, like, and we've been told we have a pretty good presentation. We have a stage, models, the whole thing. But what I'm finding seems to be working is the way the customer's buying in. Again, the black pillow boot and the tan pillow boot, we know those, we'll buy those. And they're, when we show them a new product, they're kind of looking, and they're not sure because, again, they can't touch and feel as much. The great thing, though, right now is we're able to have more and more. Our presentations are skewed 50% virtual and 50% in person. So, James, what are you seeing in your presentations? What's your, are you able to show them and sell new products? And what are the percentage of your presentations?
I unfortunately am a little bit and I did only 2 Zoom meetings in 2 years of COVID. I'm definitely more of a person, feel the product, fit the product type of agency, and we're able to achieve that even with no trade shows. So we did a lot of shoe caravans. We did a lot of tailgate presentations, backroom presentations. This year, one of my goals is to become more adept at doing media presentations, because the brands are heavily investing in having really good presentation tools. It's just being old school. I just have to improve upon that for next year and gradually turn towards that. I see some of my brands, my competition, they basically send a file in May, and you have like 4 days to get your order in, or you don't get product for the next fall. So there's a balance. I work with a lot of smaller European brands that they have really good relationships with their factories in Europe, and the lead times are not as long, which is really nice. My Asia stuff, I've definitely found has been more challenging for the lead times. So my major brands that have Asian production, there's certainly adjusting right away and warning that the orders are going to have to come in months earlier than previously.
Wow. Thomas, how have you been managing through this? Have you had many virtual and in person? What was your percentage?
More virtual. We communicate a lot through MailChimp, for example. Our manufacturers, our partners have great presentations that we share, that we can share. There's nowadays there's just an amazing image libraries, YouTube channels. It's all available. You just have to put it into a manageable format for our partners here in Canada, which we're doing. Yes, in Vancouver, of course, we present sometimes, but I haven't really traveled much. I was in Toronto twice only. And trade shows, the first one will be January at the Toronto Gift Show. And really, that's what we have done. But the rest has been really just virtual and very little in person.
I want to kind of switch the gear to what do we see? What are our inventories going to look like down the road? Like, are you anticipating any shortages, Tim? And if so, how are you going to navigate it?
I'm not anticipating shortages. I have kind of increased the sales forecast to kind of build in a bit of a buffer, and that varies by SKU as well. You know, we see great opportunity in the safety market, for example, so we'll put some more resources towards that and more forecast. Should shortages appear, you know, we try to allocate and just distribute our resources equitably. So I want to have fair representation through our territories, through our dealers, through our reps. And that's how I would manage any kind of shortages, is just ensuring that, you know, I think the natural response is for people to start hoarding product when they know something's going to be in short supply. And we just try to counter that by ensuring, you know, we're not sending all of our stock to a customer or, you know, 5 customers or what have you. We're really conscious about ensuring there's fair representation across the board for as long as we can, right?
Yeah, so
ultimately
managing
it's our
your
business.
inventory. But do you see any, so you don't anticipate any shortages down there?
I don't. Not for us, as I say, our supply is fairly consistent and constant, right? We're not introducing a lot of new leathers. We might introduce new elastics, but that's a pretty simple commodity for us to manage, I think, versus, you know, new lasts or new outsoles or that kind of stuff. So we're just kind of mixing and matching with what we already have.
Yeah, I found last year was a time when there was shortages, particularly because, you know, back in May 2020, when, you know, everything closed down, I think everybody got cancellations, just, you know, the uncertainty. So a lot of mostly big, a lot of the independent retailers kind of kept their orders. A lot of the big retailers canceled their orders. Then what happened is they came back for the same shoes and more. And that last year I found that there was a little bit more of a shortage, and there was more of a demand for product. I'm not sure what's going to happen this year because everything's, you know, been pushed out. Everything's so late. So there's a shortage of product, you know, within the last couple of months because everybody's wanted their fall goods. I know back to school was delayed, which means that Q4 was delayed. So it'll be really interesting to see. But James, do you see any shortages in your commodities that you retail, that you wholesale?
So far, Frank, I'm seeing a little bit more of beefing up of inventory for next spring. Again, there's a lot more optimism. I have to say that just talking to retailers, to my brands, to bosses, that type of thing, the overwhelmingly excitement to be back at some trade shows again and just to finally turn the corner. There's a real partnership between the retailer, the reps, the vendors, the brands, everybody each other out. And I am now seeing a huge excitement for people to get into January to see each other in shows again. Mm-hmm. That's been my atmosphere that I've been noticing for sure.
Back in August when we had that shoe show, it was so weird and so strange to see people, and you kind of I'm a hugger, right? So guys, girls, whatever, and it was just kind of like, hey, can we say hello? It was it's very, very interesting, and it's a very neat process to actually see humans again and touch and feel everybody. Whoa, I didn't mean touch and feel. I meant to greet everybody. So Thomas, how's your inventory right now, and how, you know, do you anticipate it you know, seeing through? Do you see any shortages in your inventory and all your goods?
Just before I answer that question, I was just at the Whitecaps game on Sunday. 25,000 people in a stadium, biggest sporting event in BC since COVID. It was quite amazing, and they made the playoffs, which of course was additional bonus, but it was really, really nice to get that feel of together again.
Yeah.
And even though you sat there with a mask on, which was kind of weird when you looked around the arena, we were getting used to it, of course, but yeah, it was nice.
But did everybody have their mask on? Because I see at different venues, more in the US it's different, but in Canada I see that a lot of them, like the Leaf game on Monday night, nobody had their mask on.
Really?
No, yeah.
No, I think no, it's very disciplined. I mean, soccer is a family outing, right? It's $30 a ticket.
Wow,
you get a
great.
different crowd, and it's definitely, it's in the afternoon, and it's family event. So yeah, very, I would say as a European, I would call it very Canadian, very civilized, and very orderly, and nice to see that. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, great.
Who won the World Cup again this year? Or was Italy? Never mind. Keep going. Go ahead.
You should know that. Yeah. So we do see some shortages, but not a lot. So because we pull directly often from the manufacturer, so we ourselves, I stock very little because I go often straight to store from the source. And but I have in one brand especially, I've beefed up some additional inventory, and we pull from here. And sometimes we pull together, they ship part, we ship part. And sometimes it takes 3 times to fill an order now. Before it was once, but that's what it takes. That's okay too. We do what we can. And so it's more administration, it's more work in a sense, but product wise, we don't see a lot of delays.
So I alluded to the fact that, we're working much earlier, but I there's a lot of retailers on this, and I want to ask all 3 of you the same question, and we can start with Tim. Has there been a hesitancy by the retailer, all sizes, to work earlier than what they're traditionally used to?
No, I think as James suggested, people are really keen to get started earlier. It's difficult to do on our end to get samples and kind of turn back the clock to meet those demands. But I think if we would have started booking in September, people would have been open to it. You do, encounter those situations where you're still shipping product that you potentially want to book again the following season. But I think retailers are used to that. And once you start booking at this time of year, people are busy. They're in their stores, they're running their stores, right? They're selling product. They're trying to find staff. So it's I think the sooner we can get things done, I think the better for everyone involved, right? And once you hit December, it's game over. It's hard to have someone's focus when they're kind of worried at the back of their mind, well, what's happening at the store today? And, when do I have to have this booking in? And now I have to move on to my next brand. And it's a lot, especially for, I think all of us deal with a lot of independents, right? A lot of owner operators. So it's really, really tricky. So I think, yes, the sooner we can roll it out, the better.
Yeah, the one part where speaking to a lot of other people in the industry, like it's very the brands, the core brands, if you will, or the known brands, if you will, it's easier for us to get those appointments and those. But where I find that it is trying new things and trying new brands. I think it's been a real tough go for guys like that. And I don't know, James, have you pioneered any new brands through this pandemic? And, how challenging has that been?
I have a lot of brands. We're up to brands in our agency. So there's a lot of pioneering involved. And again, we just rely on our aggressive strategies of shoe caravan, road travel, now trade shows, and we'll continue that strategy.
So you haven't had any resistance in introducing a new brand through this? It's been
no
smooth.
In the West, there's a pretty loyal the sales reps and the retailers, and retailers usually will give their long-standing reps opportunities to try different stuff. I found the last couple of months there's been a lot of chasing a product. A lot of brands didn't ship at all. One of my brands didn't ship a pair this year, so there's a lot of opportunities there. And I actually found as again we were coasting through the COVID recovery, there's some good opportunities out there, and customers will give you a chance with some new emerging brands, and they're always looking for different categories. And yeah, just move into 22 and let's get rocking again.
Yeah. What, Thomas, what can a retailer do to assist in all these challenges that we're facing?
Say that again, I missed that.
What can a retailer, there are retailers on listening, what can they do to assist in the process of order taking and order getting?
Well, it's a tough one. They could hold a bit more stock, but I understand that's not easy. Buy earlier, maybe place multiple POs and stage them out a bit. Again, that's challenging because you base your POs based on of course, your results. But communication, I think, is always the number one for us. The more I know about their needs or their challenges, the better I can maybe assist. So if they let me know what they see out there, because I'm working through their eyes, right? I don't face the consumer. I don't face the market per se. I'm working through a large number of retailers, and they have a lot of information from the street that I don't have directly, right? And we have some great partnerships where we exchange and we communicate well, and that's the best way. But maybe a bit more stock, maybe buy a bit earlier, and if they space out their POs a bit, maybe smaller, but have a ship every 2 weeks, and then we can definitely fill better that way and keep them closer so they have the goods.
So that's exactly what I was looking for. There was, so what Thomas is saying is for the retailer to step up, and communication is always king, obviously. But Tim, so I'm a retailer, I place my order, and I need to make changes 3 months down the road. What is the I guess it's a Bloodstone question, but what is the what can we do as wholesalers to help the retailer in that case?
Well, I would sooner have that situation, Frank, where you at least have a booking for something. And then if you need to make a change, and let's talk about that change when it happens. I think everyone's better prepared for that kind of situation. It's a give and take relationship, and we're kind of always looking at how we can help a retailer. And we understand something that you book and take a chance on isn't always going to be successful, and we can't place that full responsibility on the retailer. So we're kind of always open to those conversations and discussions. And if anything, as Thomas says, he made some really strong points. Or more information we have, the better. Even if it's I don't necessarily need a booking, but give me a sense of what you think you can sell in the next year. How much can you hold in inventory? Knowing what's out in the market is just so valuable for us, especially in the way that we structure our business. Information is super, super important.
Yeah. So very important that, for all the independents, for all the retailers, we have to partner up. We have to make sure that we work together. We're asking, hey, we want you to forecast that crystal ball down. And sometimes it's, like I said, in one of the cases earlier, it's almost a year of a forecast. So there has to be, obviously I can't speak for every company, but there's got to be a little bit of give and take. But the one thing that the suppliers need at this point, the wholesalers need, is they need the information and they need the communication. And I thought one of you guys was gonna say, well, what can the retailers do? Well, give us bigger orders, I guess, would be the one thing that'll help us all. But give us the orders, I guess, to that. Give us your as good a prediction as you can get, and we're going to try to get it to you as soon as possible. The reason why this is all happening is not because us as wholesalers want the orders earlier. It's so that we can get it to you on time, get it to the retailers on time. One of the other questions I really want to tackle, this is totally not even on our questions that we were even talking about, but what do you guys see happening with prices down the road? Let's start with you, James.
That's a really interesting topic. I had one vendor, as he's experiencing these $25,000 container costs, he was saying, well, we got to raise the price. And ultimately the view from all my vendors was that, okay, we need to raise prices, but we have to honor the bookings price that customers have provided orders for. But effective today, anything booked after today, there's anywhere between, I'm running about a 7% to a 12% increase for similar products for fall of 22. And I've seen that across the board of 100% of my brands.
Thomas, what do you see happening with prices out of Europe? Because most all your stuff is out of Europe.
There'll be small increases, but we're working with our manufacturers to introduce new product that is priced differently, that has no base price with the previous product. So if I take a product I had for a long time and it's also 25% more, woo, that's a tough one. But if I introduce a new product nobody has seen, it's just priced differently, but it has other features. And so it's not so comparable. That's we're going more and more into the luxury segment as well from our end, because that's where we see good business, and those are less price sensitive to a increase in a container cost or a raw material. So we're sort of going a different strategy rather than just bringing up the prices every year on core product, which is hard to swallow. And if we read the news, there might be inflation, there might be interest rates increases. That's all again pushing up prices. So we don't just want to make a core product more and more and more expensive until it's just gone. We try to keep the core product at the core price, and then layer different kinds of products around it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely it does. It, not just raising a price, like you said, on the same, improving it and then giving them a reason, showing value, showing, and that's why they're paying the increased price. I can, James alluded to this is an area where we all wanted to talk about, was the containers coming out of Asia and so on. So, just so that everybody, we all kind of know on the call where everything's gone, but a container used to cost anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000. So we would estimate, a couple dollars a pair to ship a shoe to Canada. Well, that ballooned up. So imagine, 5,000 and went to 12, and then it went to 16, and then it went to 20, and I've heard as high as 27,000. So it was very difficult, for all the companies to bring in these shoes. They're no longer a $2 shipping charge. It's $2 plus maybe $5 or $6. So it's very, very difficult. And I know that most of the suppliers honored the POs, their legal contracts. So that was great. But it was very, very tough for the suppliers to maintain their prices in season. Now, Tim, you guys, I don't think you were able to book your containers 2-3 years out, but how did this whole shipping affect the Bloodstone business?
It was tragic. I mean, we really pride ourselves on our partnerships, and we realized very quickly that even though we are dealing with the same freight forwarder for 15-20 years, they had no answers for us. And we're actually using a completely different provider now, because the one we were using says we can't get you what you need. And there's we thought we did a fairly good volume out of Vietnam, but our volume is what some people do in a month, what we do in a year, right? So priorities shift pretty quickly. I do not foresee prices coming down anytime soon on containers. I don't see why they would. There's no reason why a provider would suddenly start reducing rates back to where they were, because the demand is there and it's going to be there for a while, right? So yeah, it's not the kind of expense you build into your business. And as you suggest, it's not something I know many people can absorb. So yeah, we have a price increase coming up next Monday, actually, between 4% and 5%, which I feel is pretty reasonable. It's kind of on par with where inflation is currently. But that's also our first price increase since 2019. So as hard as it was to do, I still felt it was kind of somewhat more digestible. And there might be a couple products for next fall that we might increase, but those weren't increased in this most recent price increase. So, yeah.
I find with the Cougar business in general, you know, when we're shipping $250 leather boots, and you know, you get that type of a price increase, and then we also do a very large kids boot business, so it's really tough on was really tough on the kids, on the, you know, the 60, 70, 80, $90 items than it was on it's a lot bigger percentage. So the only, you know, I did again, back to my my production manager at my colleague at Cougar. So he deals with a lot of the factories, and what we've heard is that there might be some type of government intervention to this, you know, 5,000 to 27,000. Also heard that the prices have come down a bit, not down from, you know, the 24,000 and the 20,000. They've come down a bit, but the foreseeable future, i.e. the next 6-7 months, so spring, this will still be somewhat impactful. All the shipping costs and the shipping delays will be impactful in spring. The only real positive little bit of light at the end of the tunnel is they did say that, you know, it should work itself out by next June shipping. And please do not, I know this is recorded, and I'll see what Frank's, this is, again, I am not by any means an expert. This is, I've been speaking to a few people that handle this type of business, and they're anticipating then maybe. So to Tim's point, is that it's still going to be, it's not going to be, it's never going to go down to where it was. And but it, you know, I've already heard that, you know, the containers are starting to go down a little bit, but this is anticipated right through the spring shipping. So it's going to be a very interesting next 6 months. But again, you know, I hope these guys that are predicting that light at the end of the tunnel starting June, I think that'll be really refreshing to everybody, where, you know, we don't have to, you know, book the product out as far. And the main thing is that, you know, prices cannot go up again another 5% as they did this past year. So how are you, Thomas, how are you communicating all this information to your retailers? What's your strategy there?
Just before I answer that question, you know, the future predictions, like Yogi Berra said, most predictions are wrong, especially about the future, right? So that is, it's very, very difficult, of course. So I communicate mostly, again, through digitally, updating our membership or our partnerships. And if we have, you know, bottlenecks, that we communicate those. We did quite a few of those communication messages quite a while ago about, hey, Christmas is coming, like every year, holidays are here. But it's going to be difficult and different. So please work with us. And I think most of our partners have heard about it, seen it, and some can react to it and some can't, right? That's just the nature of the beast and the business of the people. We try to be proactively letting them know that what's happening from our end. And that's mainly through, well, the odd phone call, of course, but you can't call 600 people all the time. So it's digital. We're trying to get better digitally anyways. That's a big push for us for next year. We need to get better there. We need to modernize a lot. We have a good team together now, IT wise, and we just need to be on that omni-channel business model as well.
Mm-hmm. James and Tim, do you have anything to add to his comments?
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I going back to what James was saying before about being in front of people, we're just so happy to have the opportunity to be able to have our reps out in the field again this past fall. So, you know, it's equally important for us to talk to the people on the floor as it is to communicate messaging to the owners and the buyers and whatnot, right? So being in front of people is hugely important for us. And some messaging you can't communicate or get across in an email, right? But of course, as Thomas suggests, it's the most efficient means. we try to over communicate, but also be conscious of the quickness with how things change, right? You might give someone some information today and that could be completely different tomorrow. So you really have to kind of strike that balance of, okay, is this information necessary or valuable? Is it going to be helpful for the retailer running their business and for our partnership, or can this wait for maybe the next communication?
James?
Yeah, it's a lot of strategies from my distributors and brands on how to attack the next year, how to become more media savvy. One of my distributors just launched a monthly newsletter where it was quite effective. They included previews of next season's collection, updates in terms of deliveries, timelines, that type of thing. So I thought that was a really good initiative. And just basically whatever makes it easier for the retail buyers to put their collections together, that's how I think. And it's a balance between in-person presentations or media presentations. I try to explain to my brands not to do like an hour and a half Zoom presentation with a full-on piece-by-piece collection. I think today's buyer just does not have that time in their day of this crazy world. So I try and urge to keep it as simple as possible, to forward PDF catalog images instead of the various 19 different mediums that there is out there today, including all the different mediums. So just to make it as easy as possible for the retail buyer to put their collection together, that's my strategy forward.
Yeah, I speaking with one of my colleagues, I don't know if this, we'll see how far this is down, back to the video presentations. There's been a lot of retailers on this that have had presentations, I've heard without samples or half samples, or just through pictures and so on and so forth. But what the most interesting thing that I've heard from one of my colleagues is that there might not, these video presentations might be a virtual presentation where you put on the virtual goggles and you're going to be in our showrooms. Have you guys heard of this, or is this talk, or is this something that's actually going to happen? Because it sounds really cool. Tim, you had a little smile.
I've not heard it yet.
But is this
I might
sound
have to get my
interesting?
14-year-old son involved if that's going to happen.
to run the technology.
Yeah, I don't know how successful I'd be at that.
Yeah, well, again, it's the same thing. You still can't touch and feel. So that brings me back to, what are the validity going forward? And James, I know what your stance is on it, so I want Thomas to start with this first. What's going to happen with the shows going forward? I just find that they're still so super important, especially to the independents, especially to the touch and feel. What's your take on it? Being on the AFA board, Thomas, can you give us your unbiased opinion?
Yeah, here's my biased opinion. Yeah, shows are important, for sure. I will be at shows again, but less shows than we have done in the past. I will do the key shows in Canada, and I will do the key shows in Europe and the US. But we've done, now that we have gone through COVID and we learned a lot, we have done too many shows. There's other ways to connect, and that is the digital world that will come into play. But trade shows are there they will stay, but they have to be good trade shows. That's the challenge. People have to come and you have to have a good time. As a plug here for Europe, at the Frankfurt trade show at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, the wine comes out, the cheese and the bread comes out, and you have a small party at every booth, right? And people actually go for that and they stay. Nobody leaves before like 6, 7, 8. They have to really kick you out because you haven't having such a good time. And that's when you build the relationship. That's when you forge new liaisons, and all of a sudden you talk about things outside the business. And that's when the real life happens. That never happens on Zoom, because the sun starts to shine in and you're tired, the cat walks by and you just want to go. And that's where we have to do much. There's a lot of room in Canada, but there's a lot of laws as well in Canada. So, and we are trying hard at the AFA. How can we do it so that it's just more exciting to go to a show than just look at a shoe or a wallet, right? Because
Mhm.
that's only half, if not less, of the show for me. But shows need to be here, they will stay, and AI will come. A good friend of mine is in that business, virtual reality with those glasses, and what they do is that metaverse is unbelievable. There is people out there, more and more, that are in that business, and I don't understand it. It's not my generation, but I'm intrigued and I want to learn about it. It is here to stay and to come. So Tim, talk to your son. He'll be there and he'll teach you, and it'll be fun, right?
Definitely open to it.
James, what's your take on shows, man? Mr. Western board member?
Yeah, so I think trade shows are really important. I just think that it's going to be different importance of the trade shows. Like, I think so many more deadlines are going to go before our traditional trade show schedule. But I do think that trade shows are so important to have the store owners, buyers go speak to head office personnel, to have get a real atmosphere within the season, what's happening. So I think trade shows are vital. We do multi-categories. We do homewares, footwear, clothing, blankets, wall decor. We cover it all. We do 22 trade shows a year, and we're back to our full set of schedule for 2022. So I really look forward to it. It is a balance between the expenses, because the shows become more and more expensive these days. And that is a challenge, just determining if a certain show is worth it, how many customers you'll see and knock off, and not have to hit the road and go see that sort of sector of customers. So yeah, we'll keep doing it, and I really look forward to next year.
So Tim, are you going to be bringing your almost life-looking sheep to shows still? I remember.
We will. There's so many elements to consider, as you know, James and Thomas had just suggested. You know, the value of time. You know, we're so crunched for time these days, right? It's hard to find time to get to a show. The expense. I can't believe, James, you're doing 22 shows. That just blows my mind. You're a trooper. But yeah, we'll be there, but it'll be after our booking deadline, right? So, you know, for a brand that's not really looking to open more business, you know, is that 3 days for me going to be better spent seeing some key dealers? Maybe. Will people mess us?
But will those key dealers come to the show to see you?
Well, I've even heard, you know, we used to get a lot of our East Coast accounts come out.
Right.
I don't know that will happen this year, you know, especially because there's still COVID considerations, right? When they come and go back, they have their little bubble out there, right? That's different than what's here.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it will look like at that time.
Yeah. Well, just before, to your point, just before COVID hit, there was a lot of, there was quite a few from the West, and there was a lot from the East that used to attend the show, because it's almost like, you know, everybody's there, and it's every brand, and a lot of the Eastern reps actually come to our show because they have so many of their customers coming. So yeah. I know with us at Cougar, one of the things, we have to attend shows because in order to service our independence. Yes, Tim, our deadlines are well gone, but what we have to do with the brands, what all of us as brands have to do, is we have to forecast ahead of time, and they're going to be buying from what we forecasted. What are the best styles that the first 30 customers have purchased, and that's what we're going to go by. So it's going to be a little bit more of a stock deal, but I think it's going to work very, very well. The great thing that a lot of my reps you know, won't have to deal with is cancellations, because it'll be inventory that they're going to be purchasing. So anyways, guys, listen, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. And I want to thank James and Thomas and Tim for taking the time and for all your knowledge. It was great to have such a diverse group with such diverse products, so that we could cover you know, a vast variety of topics. But again, thank you for tuning in. I hope everybody found this informing, and Michelle, back to you. If you're listening, or she probably went for a nap, I guess, or something. So there she is.
I didn't go for a nap.
So one last thing, guys, again, just another shameful plug for 210. And I know in the West that James and his crew out there are collecting for the Western Shoe Association for 210 also, but we're in the middle of our 210 shoe drive. So if you've got any footwear, please get a hold of Michelle at 210 Canada. We are collecting shoes. And then we, within in the end of November, what we'll do is we deal with about 30 charities. We'll get all those shoes out to people who really, really need them. So thanks again. And thanks for tuning in, Michelle.
Thank you, everybody. Just to echo what Frank has said, thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys taking your time. We know you're busy. Thanks. And
Thank you all.
stay
Much
safe. And
appreciated.
we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.